Welcome to the podcast. It starts with you, with me, Vic O'Farrell. I ask my guests, by understanding their own behaviours and personality style, what impact on their lives, both personally and professionally, has there been? What is it like to live and work with someone of your style? I mean, this is not about labelling people, putting people in boxes, or an excuse for bad behaviour. It's about recognising, understanding and respecting that we're all different. And what impact can you have on others by looking in the mirror? Because it starts with you. And welcome to another episode of It Starts With You. And I am delighted today to be joined by the wonderful Anne. Rather than me introduce myself, Anne, would you like to let the viewers and listeners know who you are, what you do, but also what your profile is in terms of personality?
Certainly, Vic. Really lovely to be talking to you, even if it's virtual. My name's Anne Godfrey, and I'm Chief Executive Officer of an organisation many people will never have heard of, GS1 UK, which is both a standards and a membership organisation with about 84 people of all shapes, sizes, behaviours, and personality traits. So, what do I think I am? Well, I vary, as Vic would know, depending on the situation, the stress levels, and the people I'm surrounded by. So usually strong yellow with equally strong red. And that's when I'm going that direction, but I'm going to take you with you and I'm going to be very influential. And then when I get a little bit fed up, the red takes over, but I'm still very, very strong with both. And it's a case of decisive decision making. I'm coming through. Quite like you to come with me, but round about now, I'm not really caring quite so much.
That's a really great description. And I probably would, use that if I describe Anne. I was like, just go with Anne because if you don't, and when she does want you to go with her, she'll let you know.
You
Um,
should know.
I do know. Well, actually, I have to say, from your previous role, so for those that are, again, listeners are watching, I've worked with Anne. Oh, so quite a few years, but also a couple of roles. And I would say in your previous role, you were very much more red yellow than yellow red. And again, like you say, it was your surroundings and the situation that you were in dictated how you behaved.
Absolutely. There are times and places for yellow and influence, and there are times and places for just doing. And as Vic knows, the last organization was in need of transformational change and change at pace. And that's when the redness comes through. The trick is, as you get, and I'm going to say the age word, as you get older, the trick is to know when to dial it right back down again because you're scaring the horses.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, it's all about flexing and adapting who we are and how we behave. So if I ask you, Anne, then what impact, because I know that you've done profiling even before we came into each other's worlds, but what impact has it had on you in your role as a CEO and as a leader to to you and how you behave and the impact it's had not just on you but also on the teams around you?
Absolutely. As a CEO, unsurprisingly, anytime I go for another job, you tend to have the agency, the headhunter, who appoints you, putting you through any number of the usual suspects in terms of assessments. And I know many people think, oh, not again. For me, you can never do enough of them because it's all about awareness and learning and change. And going into any new organization, having reminded yourself of your preferences and how you make decisions, how you behave, can never be a bad thing, and taking that with an awareness of why the organization is recruiting you. And that's obviously why the companies that appoint people like chief execs do it, because they'll have the brief, the written brief from your new employer, and then they'll have the unwritten brief, which is cultural fit and style. And I think it's always good for both sides to use some of the available tools to just check out the stuff that you don't write down. Let's just check out how this person landing in a pool, is it going to be small ripples or is it going to be a really big asteroid? So for me, I've found it really helpful in any of my chief execs jobs just to remind myself to see how it changes over time. And it
Hmm.
definitely has. But I know in moments of stress, it's going to go straight back up to red. But I just think as a leader, the minute you stop wanting to understand yourself, your team suffers. And that part of it to the second half of your question, particularly going into my last two organizations, have been very blue, very, very blue. We have strong cohorts of detailed A to Z, touching on every letter twice. You've got to tell me it three times. And then, to use Belbin, the reflectors. So they want to go off and think about it and come back. strong reds, you just have to remind yourself to be patient. So, both for myself and my learning and development, and then my impact on my teams, going into any new role, just going, okay, this is how I think I'm going to land. And then watching it happen and adapting as required is one of the great reasons to do any kind of profiling.
Mm, absolutely. And I like how you picked up on the fact that you've got the detail people and the reflectors. You've got those, and they're in every organization. So understanding your impact on them is huge because but what about them understanding their impact on on you?
Oh, bless. Yeah, that's a bit weirdly that people don't always seem to remember that, and I think seniority obviously comes not quite at a price, that's the wrong phrase, but the chief exec is the chief exec. So the fact that they're this kind of a person, I sometimes think people don't reflect themselves on, okay, what's the impact of my behavior and my need for certainty and detail and again and again on them. So when they see the temperature rising and they see the switch to JFDI, if we're being honest, I think the tendency is to say, oh, well, how very dare she? She understands what kind of a person I am. She should be understanding of me. I think a little bit more of the two-way sometimes, and that's not true of everyone. Some people are equally aware of, okay, I know my need for detail can go a bit far sometimes. And if I'm stressed and there's a lot of change, and I'm a change manager, chief exec, so I land, change comes too. And the most successful change programs are the ones where awareness is across all four colors, not just the reds and the yellows are meant to tone it down, but actually the blues and the greens are going, our behavior might have to just adapt slightly as well.
Mm, yeah, I hear you on that one. Um, and I think I mean, all four different colours, and we're a blend of all of them. Like you say, you're yellow, red, or red, yellow, the same as me. And I sometimes wonder, is it the people side? So the yellows and the greens, so whether that's outgoing or reserved, perhaps have more awareness of their impact, would you say, than the more task focused, the reds and the blues?
As a sweeping generalization, yes. And it's all sweeping generalization. It's not like there are 12 signs of the zodiac and we all fit into 12 boxes. But I would say absolutely, and what I call my soft and fluffies, and I know you talk about S being for steadiness, but I call them my soft and fluffies. The ones who everybody has to be happy, big hugs, cookies on a Friday. They're far more aware of their personal impact and the impact on team of behaviors. And I do say, as a sweeping generalization, the blues less so. But some blues get it, and will mitigate their need for certainty and detail just because the team benefits from them holding back. And we'll find another blue in a corner or find a green in a corner and have a one-to-one conversation, which is, I'm really stressy. I know she's told me 3 times. Can you just reaffirm what I think I'm hearing? Because if I go and ask her again, she's going to look at me in that way that she does, where her patience is beginning to run out. So yes, within the kind of nobody is all one of the four colours, I would say that that's a true statement.
Mm. And yeah, it is very much a generalization, but I suppose for me, my awareness of having done this for the last 15 years is that the people side of the profile that has more self-awareness. That's not to say that whilst they have more self-awareness, they're better at flexing and adapting because sometimes they cannot. I've known extreme yellows who absolutely know that the I can also stand for irritating and then do nothing about how they behave. I'm probably describing myself before
Too
before I
much
add
jazz
any stuff.
hands. Too much jazz hands, Vic. Oh, but you do it so well when you do it to excess, just to show what it looks like.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I have that self-awareness. So when we talk about you as a CEO, and I know if you look at some of the or listeners and watchers, if you have some of the other ones, I seem to be attract a lot of yellows and reds. But that's not to say that the red and yellow make the best CEOs. Well, how would you describe a CEO that was perhaps more on the blue side of things?
It's really interesting, particularly in the third sector space, and particularly within the membership space where you have what I call STEM membership organizations. So where you are a chief executive of an organization that's full of chemical engineers or accountants or IT professionals, where you are surrounded not only Are some of your staff deep blues? Your governance structure is going to be very blue and your membership's very blue. And I think to use the COVID example, I think a lot of the smaller STEM membership organizations have also gone completely virtual. So having talked to some very blue chief execs in some very blue membership organizations who are now mostly recruiting more blues because the blues are happy to sit at home, blueness is holding them back. So I think that you can be an absolutely effective chief exec with any of the four personality types in any blend, and you might be very comfortable as a blue surrounded by blues. But certainly the people I've spoken to are going, we have to be careful because we're losing that diversity of style, that diversity of preference, and that's not healthy for us. But can a blue be an effective chief exec? Yes. Would they have similar issues to what a red has as a chief exec with blue staff in reverse? Absolutely. If I was a director or a head of, as a red who needs company, as a yellow who needs people to influence, stuck at home, with a blue chief exec who's like, I'm happy in my box. I'm happy in my box. I'm going, let me out of my box. So I think on top of all the colours, the preferences, the behaviour you see under stress, that virtual and hybrid working has added another layer of complexity, regardless of what your colour is as a chief exec.
Mm. Yeah, and I think just picking up on what you said there is the fact that a very blue organisation will just move at a slower pace. It's not anything wrong with that, but in the world that we're in at the moment, where everything is so fast moving, perhaps procrastination might just keep them back a bit as well. Good is better than not done at all.
Correct. And if you've got, 12, 14, 16, or if you're particularly unlucky, a council of members who are also all blues, who, are there to constructively challenge the chief exec, but whose preference is, I've asked 10 questions, you've answered them, here's another 10 questions. 3 board meetings later, you're still asking the same questions and you're like, just move. And that's almost acceptable in a same state when you've got money in the bank, you're delivering profit, you're moving forward. But the not-for-profit space isn't that easy anymore. Revenues are a challenge. Managing hybrid workforces are a challenge. Having a bunch of blues not willing to actually make a decision, yes or no, both are acceptable. Tell the red chief exec it's a no, they'll live with it or they'll find another job. But don't procrastinate because we don't have the time anymore for 12 months of no decisions.
No, absolutely. So what has it actually meant to you in the role that you're in now? I mean, without obviously having inside detail of the organisation, that's not for this discussion, but just in terms of the conversations that you have within the team and within the office about different personalities, how has it helped and supported you by everybody understanding who they are?
Well, as you know, Vic, because I brought you in to do this, we have an incredibly diverse, though small workforce. And many of them have been there more than 20 years. So I have 5 staff who've done 20, 25, 28 years. And I've got staff joining every week. So I've averaged 1 new person every month for about 2 years. So some have done psychometrics before, some have done full L&D programs, others have done nothing. And they're all very, very different. So what doing DISC has done for us is give us a common language. And in previous organizations, I've actually given people little things to stick on their desk to remind them of the colors. Hot desking and hybrid working means we can't do that. But by having a half-day session to actually interactively see, well, what does this mean for my behavior and how might I land with the team next door, who are a bunch of blues? Common language, we talk in colors, but actually the colors are just a shorthand. Colors are a shorthand for awareness. Awareness of self, awareness of team, awareness of difference, and awareness that if something's gone wrong, did I forget? Did I forget that all 3 of them are deep, deep blue and I'm being very red? No explanation, at speed, coming on through. So I would say that's what it's given us for a small but incredibly diverse in terms of skills, approaches, workforce. Let's give everybody a basic understanding that we can then build on as we move further into our L&D program.
Yeah, because as you say, you're sub 100 people, but I don't think I've ever been and worked with an organisation that it has such diversity in terms of that when you say diversity, equity, and inclusion, you're ticking all the boxes in terms of where everyone comes from, but also the roles that everyone does. Because like you say, you're not just a membership organisation, you're a standards organisation. And a crucial one as well, a really crucial one for not just the UK, because GS1 is a global organisation. So how does it translate when you're talking outside to stakeholders, to clients, when you're presenting to anyone, just delivering as the CEO for GS1, what does it mean to you? How does that show itself up?
Fascinating question. I would say largely the people who are doing the kind of client-facing, member-facing are reds, yellows. But because we're a standards body, if we're out talking about the transition from, to get geeky for a minute, barcodes to QR codes, which is what we do, the people who are out there talking to members are our standards geeks, and we adore our standards geeks. But sometimes they shouldn't be allowed out very much. So you have to flavour on top of the awareness, some training around. Yes, you can do the four-letter acronyms, but tone the language down, tone the blueness down, and if you're not feeling comfortable, just take a break and come back to it. So most of the organization, particularly our reds, yellows, put them on a stage, let them fly. People like me, we need the blues. We need the blues out there, translating technical language into client-facing language. That's one skill set that we need to give them. Being aware that what they can do with the chief data officer at DEFRA or Tesco's or Amazon is very different to what they might do with the commercial director for Sainsbury's or eBay. So, which is why I've said that what we do with you, what we do about DISC is just one part of the modules that we put together with people. Because yes, 84 is incredibly diverse. I look out, I see London, different backgrounds, ethnicities, sexualities, personality styles. Managing 84 very different people and then 60,000 members is fun, if I'm being honest. And to the second part, globally, it's very interesting talking to the other 117 chief execs, because scarily there are 118 people like me. The difference actually in the chief execs, but the lack of difference in what they are managing. So all of the GS1 staff complements around the world, where they get beyond, say, 12, 15, 20 people, because many are very small, have the same pots of blue, the occasional red, yellow, nice bunch of greens. But the chief execs, very different. So historically, our chief execs came from within, from the standards team. So we've got lots of very blue chief execs who are technical experts. Increasingly, the last 2 or 3 years, we've had people coming in from outside. So marketers, people from retail, people from construction. So we are having to accommodate to our difference as chief execs, who half the time we're talking like this, because there's a global organization, 50% of our meetings are on Zoom. You don't get personalities over Zoom, but you do get irritated over Zoom, which is personalities. And the best thing that happened was when we all started meeting again, because nothing beats it, particularly the kind of things you and I are talking around about your impact on others. You suddenly realize when you meet someone face to face, apart from the height, the first thing we all do is talk about, oh my goodness, you're really tall, really small, because you're seeing people from here up. And then you finally realize that what was irritating you actually was your preferred option, which is I'm wanting speed. And a bunch of blue chief execs are going detail, detail, detail. And they're right. And I'm right. And we have to somehow compromise. And nothing brings compromise more than meeting one another and understanding each other.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Because unless, and I found that with lockdown myself, to be fair, just delivering programs. So if I deliver my disc, as you know, when I'm with you or with all my other clients, it's always a face to face. Now, whilst I can do it online, it is so much more exhausting for me as the person delivering, because your yellows just unmute themselves and just jump in, and your reds, you can see, just get irritated, and you need to give your greens and your blues permission to speak. So it's the constant, like, right, mute, no, Anne, lovely, thank you for that. I just want to bring Vicky in on this one. And so you're constantly, whereas when you're in a room and when you've got 10 people around the room, when you direct a question, you're directing it and you're looking at the person and you're saying, Anne, if I could ask you for that one. And yes, you can do that on Zoom, but the yellow didn't hear the name and just wanted to answer it because that's who they are. So I totally hear you. When you get face to face, magic happens, doesn't it?
Body language happens, seeing everybody, their physicality, how they're sitting, are they looking irritated? There are a couple of meetings, and I will not name the other chief exec, but we have very similar backgrounds. And we ended up feeling a little bit like, on a Zoom call, the naughty children, because it was like, me miss, exactly to your point, the red, yellow's going, but I want to talk. and in a room where you can see, the blues are considering and they're having a lovely conversation with some greens, and we can hold ourselves back because we're not being excluded. We just need to give a little bit more time in a physical setting to work their way through the process. So we
Yeah.
don't quite feel like we should be in the back or be moved to the front by the teacher, because it's like, I need to keep my eye on you. So even chief execs, I think, that physical interaction really helps with an awareness of difference of each other.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, 100%. I mean, part of the stuff when I train is I always let people know that, outgoing people externalize their thought process and they just have to talk it out. And they might change it by the time they get to the end of the sentence. And the others that are far more considered and will internalize the process. So just coming back to GS1 as a membership organization, what would you say would be the makeup of the members in terms of personalities?
Well, because companies join, unless it's a founder-led business, we don't know. So of the 60,000, 80% are SMEs,
Hmm.
and they would be entrepreneurs. But again, the kind of entrepreneur they are will vary by their background, their experience, and the product that they've decided to create and sell. But for most of our corporates, we'd be engaging with their standards team or their retail team. So I wouldn't be able to do the kind of assessment you would do in an individual
Hmm.
professional body or membership body, where you can actually look at diversity of thought, diversity of background experiences. I could just guess. Interestingly, when we first came together with some of our founder-led businesses, the ones who'd set up during COVID, and it's bricks to clicks to bricks. So every single one of these entrepreneurs had set up their online business during COVID. None of them had retail experience of actually merchandising or selling in a store.
Okay.
So we were facilitating some training about how to move from being an online business to being a physical business, which is the reverse of what we've seen happening in retail for the last 10,
Mm.
15, 20 years. Every single one of them was female and under 40. And
Wow.
every single one of them was a strong, I would say, yellow, red, yellow. But that's not because all entrepreneurs are like that. The ones who are going to rock up to Oxford Street to meet a bunch of strangers, to network and do business development with a bunch of big brands, are going to be the extroverts who are comfortable landing. So, how we offer support to all of our members, not just the ones who are out there doing face to face, is one of the challenges that we face. And I can't ask 60,000 businesses to do DISC.
Oh God, no, no, absolutely not. I
It'd be
mean,
fun though.
but you're right. That those that want to meet face to face will be more likely to be the outgoing types, or at least have one of the outgoing as one of their strong character traits. So how do we pick up on those that are more reserved? How do we support those in the world where they feel that they have a safe space to come and be with people? Because I'm not saying, and neither of us are saying, that people who are reserved don't want face-to-face communication. They absolutely do, but they want it at their pace and that's agreeable for their personality. So how do we manage those?
Again, without that is the benefit of Zoom and Team, because if they can get if anybody who's slightly introverted, who's slightly less willing to put themselves forward, or is like me, is an introvert but can, go the other way just for the whole fun of it. Meeting other people in what I'm going to call technical committees. So because of what we do, we have lots of opportunities for people who work for our companies, our member companies, to get in with a bunch of technical experts in a virtual room on Zoom or Teams to talk about geeky things that they care about. And doing that once a quarter over a year or 18 months means that when we put on a regional event, which we do, so we do regional events in the Americas, Europe, APAC, EMEA, they are more likely to be willing to get in a plane, train, or automobile because they'll have the level of comfort. So when we do host, and this is mostly for our staff and some are for our members, so when we do the once a year physical event, there's been time to accustom themselves. And there's almost the security blanket of having one name. Just there's one person that they bonded with on a Zoom meeting and they can arrange to meet them for a coffee. So I tend to say to my introverts, when we try and send one or two of our standards team in particular to every event like this, make the connections first, arrange a coffee. You get there at 6 o'clock at night, go and have a beer. If you get there at 10 o'clock in the morning, arrange to meet them. And it's not quite having the comfort of somebody, holding your hand as you walk around the playground because they're adults, but it still gives them that security that an introvert, a deep blue introvert, would have in a room full of what's mostly extroverts going, hi. So I think that combination, that hybrid combination of meet people online, then meet them face to face, can bring your more introverted staff out of themselves. And
Mm.
having had a number of staff who were really impacted by COVID, either already introverts, being stuck at home, was really not good for their mental health. I think as chief execs and employers, we have an absolute responsibility to get people comfortable again with that face-to-face interaction.
Mm. Absolutely. And I know obviously when we first did our session, we were in between lockdowns because we'd gone out the first lockdown and then actually getting everyone back to the office. And it wasn't just GS1, it was so many of the clients actually getting people back to the office. But yet when I come in now, there's a real lovely buzz in the office. It's like people want to come back. I feel like people want to stay at home when they have got quiet work to do that they just want no interruptions for. But actually, I don't have to talk all day, but actually, I just want to be where I know there is actually other human beings. Have you found that, or I mean, it could just be the case that's when I come into the office, but I'm finding that more and more.
I think we were we went hard and went early, which sounds terrible, in that we went back 3 days pretty much as soon as we could. And it sounds terrible, but it was non-negotiable. So 3+2. So it's 3 days either in the office or member facing. So a day out visiting a client or a member counts as an office day. And I'm really sorry, but if that's not something that makes you comfortable, having the opportunity to do 2 days at home, then this really isn't for you. And we had headhunters and recruitment companies say, you will not get staff. If you insist on that, people will say, I'll go and work somewhere else. And I went, I'm really sorry, I don't want them, because we had seen that deterioration in cultural cohesion. We'd seen the impact on new staff. They didn't know what company they joined, what the culture was like. We'd seen the impact on introverts, where we had some real mental health issues. And we had a bunch of extroverts going, I need human contact. And I'm really, really glad that we went back as early as we did, because we've had time to work it through. And we absolutely see the benefit, which is we've got a lovely balance, cultural cohesion's back, everybody loves coming and joining us. I mean, I don't know, I inherited it, I can't take credit for it, but we have the most welcoming, inclusive culture. And you can sit at home, as I've always done for 40 years, on a Friday and do your paperwork, and you can go out and visit clients, and you have 3 days hot desking, getting to know the people who, along with you, deliver the strategy. And it
Yeah.
has to be the best blend, I think.
Well, it's those ad hoc conversations, isn't it? When you're at home and you've got Zoom program and you've got your agenda and you know what this meeting's about, you don't suddenly have that conversation while you're waiting for the kettle to boil. Not that you've got a kettle because you've got special zip taps, but while you're sitting there having lunch or you're just walking past someone, you go, "Oh, Anne, can I just run this past you?" And then someone overhears it. And those moments you cannot create on Zoom, can you?
No, the learning moments, particularly for newer staff or people who've changed teams. So we have a lot of people. We try and keep our talent as long as we can, although we have a very flat structure. So we have a contact center. If you're not sitting next to other people on the phone, you don't hear those conversations with the members. And you went, okay, that's the answer to that question. So in a completely functional, client-facing way, you're not learning. You've then got the people who move from one team to another. If they've never met these people, or been in a program or project team meeting with them, haven't picked up the language, you haven't got to know them, you've got a lack of comfort. And then there's just, as you said, the kitchen conversations over, they are very nice, Billy Taps. Who knew that's what they were called? Billy Taps. But you're missing those human interactions. And one of the really interesting things, and I think I've discussed this with you before, is all we said was it's 3 days a week. Everything else that we now do around hybrid came from staff. And the two things that the staff asked for was every team having an anchor day. So every team has one day where everybody's in. So finance and IT like Fridays. I don't know why. My anchor day is with the corporate office is Monday. So there'll always be a director and there'll always be a team in. And every project and program meeting, people said the hybrid doesn't work. And we're doing a lot of big strategic programs that are cross-functional, matrix working, people coming together for the first time to deliver a new member portal. Big deal for us. Having half on screen and half in the office didn't work. So again, the program boards themselves came and said, no, for program boards, it's all in or none in. And I love the fact that that wasn't something that was an instruction. That was something that was generated by people going, no, we're at our best in delivering for our members when everybody can see the whites of each other's eyes.
Yeah, yeah. The two teams again that like the Friday.
IS and finance. The blues, the blues, the blues.
And do you think maybe I always believe that's because whenever I've come into London, of the 5 days a week, Friday is always the quietest to travel on.
Correct.
So that's probably why, because they're more likely to think, I can come in on a Friday and I have a quieter journey in. So,
And there's hardly anybody in the office because, full fat confession, Friday's my work from home day. So you know that you can service your clients, which is the rest of the business, but they're not there to physically bother you. So I do think that my blues like the fact there's probably no more than 10 of them in the office from my 84. They can get their head down and work. They can see other people like them, but they don't have to be bothered face to face
yeah.
by the clients. So I'm not surprised. I hadn't thought about the travel before, but you're probably right.
That's what I'm finding. It's a lot to do with the travel as well, because the trains are empty. So even their journey
Yes.
is a far more comfortable journey in for them, and therefore they perform it at their best when they get there.
You learn something every day.
So, for those of you who are probably thinking, what exactly was the GS1 again? So it's barcoding, I would call it, that will one day no longer be around because QR coding, I believe, will take over, which I'm hoping is the right thing to say.
Yes.
Um,
Shall I do that and try not to do it in a geeky way?
Go on, do it.
Go on. So, 50 years ago, a lovely man that nobody ever remembered, Norman Woodland, created the barcode. He drew it actually before that in the sand on a beach in Miami. And eventually, industry went, oh, we need to identify products that you and I are buying in our local Tesco Sainsbury's. And the most important thing, apart from knowing what it is and who made it, is how much does it cost? So it goes beep at the till. So the good old-fashioned barcode that we're all used to, 10 billion times a day, there's a beep at the till. And GS1 globally is the organization that works with all the retailers and all the brands. So if you have a physical product, and I have a really sad example here, but I'm coloring in pens because I've got sad. If that has to go beep at the till, it will have one of our barcodes on it, which is amazing. However, increasingly people want to embed more information. And during COVID in particular, we got used to QR codes. They might have menus because there weren't physical menus anymore. It might tell you the story of what to do with this product. So we are slowly helping our members transition from linear to QR in all sectors. So, and again, I've told you this before, Vic, healthcare, nobody thinks about barcodes in healthcare. But if you or I were to go into a hospital today and had a wristband on, that's going to have a QR code that will identify you, your blood type, your age, what you're in for. All the medication that's put in you, we scan it. That's going to be a QR code. The surgeon will be scanned. All the, let's call it implements he uses will be scanned. And at the end of it, scan the lovely tray. And if something's missing, either they go and try and find it in the surgery or they try and find it in you. So we are helping all our members in construction, retail, healthcare to use QR to tell their story if they're a business or to give you recipes. Or if you've got allergic reactions, you scan the QR and this particular product's going to kill you. Don't eat it. So there you go. Geeky moment over.
No, but it's fascinating. I think of the QR on clothing as well. It's like you can actually find out exactly where that was made and by who, and all of the
Right.
details, the granular detail that you cannot get from a barcode. And there's you and me who don't do detail going, yeah, but I love that kind of granular detail.
Informed choice, and the apparel sector is really leading this, and it's aimed at consumers who want to make sustainable choices.
Yeah.
So it's recycle, repurpose, reuse. So you scan it, it'll tell you where the cotton came from, was it ethically sourced, were children involved in the making of this cotton, greenhouse gas emissions from getting the cotton to the factory to you, or it might be bottles. What do I do with this bottle? Can I recycle? Can I not? So whether it's efficiency and effectiveness in the supply chain, which is what the brands care about, or it's value-added consumer-facing information allows you to make a choice. QR can do both to a level of detail that you and I probably don't need, but many consumers both need and want.
Yeah. It's fascinating. I love coming into the office. I always feel like I'm part of the team when I come in as well.
Well, you are.
Thank you. So as we come to the end here, I could actually geeky talk about barcodes and QR codes more for a long time. What would be the one piece of advice that you would leave somebody that's listening that's thinking, yeah, I'm thinking about all of this profiling stuff, and it doesn't have to be DISC or it doesn't, anything, any kind of psychometric assessments. What would be your one piece of advice to them?
I think my advice to any chief exec or anybody thinking about doing it for their teams is don't be scared. It's not scary. It can be a whole lot of fun. It's not pigeonholing you. So it's not saying that you're only this kind of person, because it's not. It's just telling you about your behaviors and your preferences. And it can only add value. Self-awareness as a chief exec or any member of staff is always a good thing. And even more importantly, awareness of impact on team. If you really want to deliver your strategy, understanding how you and the people around you could be most effective is the reason I do DISC.
Yeah. And that's why the podcast is called It Starts With You.
There you go.
Thank you for this lovely conversation, Anne. And if you want to get hold of Anne, all her details will be in the show notes following this episode.
Thank you very much, Vic.
Thank you.
How has this conversation had an impact on you? What have you learnt? What will you do differently? Do leave a review on Apple or Spotify on It Starts With You podcast. And also leave a comment down below. Do also then connect with me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. And why not even join the Facebook group It Starts With You and keep the learning ongoing. Thank you for listening.